You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV Smash After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV Smash After Show.
Hey everybody. Hey everybody, Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another episode of Smash, season not 1, Marisa, but 2, episode 14, The Phenomenon. I'm Tamara Berg. I'm joined in studio by Sarah Mendoza.
Well, hello.
Kendra Kabasele.
Season 1 to her.
Kristin Carole.
Hey guys.
And we've got Marisa Serafini in the booth.
What's up, ladies?
Oh my gosh. Hello. Kyle is dead.
Who killed Kyle?
Let's just
that was
start
abrupt.
right there. Yeah. So we really weren't sure. Kristin, you thought there was going to be a little bit of hospital time.
I figured something. I just figuring with Smash or how they've been doing things to drag it out a little bit, but no, he's dead, and that was it.
I thought
Dead
it
and
would
gone,
be
over.
a police flashlight. Wasn't that?
Oh
Remember?
yeah, you did predict that, and we went no.
Or a train.
It was like the most emotional episode.
Okay,
I think so, too.
Was really, really tired. I was sleep deprived for several days. Not that I'm not always sleep deprived, but sleep deprived for several days before I watched the episode. And I watched it, and I just cried through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I did.
I did
Yeah, it was-
too.
I think I was sitting there with my jaw on the floor for the whole show
Right.
because I didn't think they would actually do it.
I actually
you know,
watched
kill
it on Hulu during lunch break at work, and I'm sitting there at my computer trying not to like shake too much while the tears are coming out. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a really emotional episode.
It really was. And I thought it was beautifully done. And, you know, this is what's happening. And I predicted it would happen. The shows are getting so good. There is, as we've, did we talk about this last week, that there is a big major campaign on Facebook and Twitter to bring Smash back for a 3rd season?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
They had on E! Online as well, where they had this campaign called Save One Show. That's going. I don't know if you can save Smash anymore. I mean, it have to be really big in order to do it. But Smash won out of, I think they started with about 20 different shows.
Really?
And it kind of just killed the other competition. Yeah.
Well, you know, you
I
could
think it
bring
was
it.
by 58%.
Yeah, and there were 2 other shows to
kidding.
split the other one because they had a wild card round.
Wow.
So, and they won for that. So
Now, the
yay,
thing
Smash
is,
fans.
they could bring the show back if they do it a couple years in the future. You know, fast forward a couple years, and then, which would be a little tough to deal with reality that way because they do cross over into real life sometimes with this show. But they could do it and then just totally wash the whole cast and
There'd
start
be
over
a
again.
lot of recaps.
A lot of
You know.
recaps and a lot of recasting.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, you know, we were hoping that the show would get better and better as the season went on because we were, you know, not loving it so much, to be honest,
Yeah.
in the first half of the season. And sure enough, it's so good every episode now. And I'm telling you, I'm going to be pissed when they cancel the show in a couple weeks.
Me too.
Are we going to march?
Maybe we will.
We should.
Where
we
would
should
we
do
march?
a marching musical
Just
down
down
Broadway.
Yes. That is going to be
in
hard.
LA though.
That is
Dim
going to
the
be hard for
lights.
the LA girls to
Yeah.
do.
We're gonna dim the
gonna-
lights like they did for Kyle.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yes.
Just one marquee. That's all we'll get.
Just one.
If we can get the Pantages.
The lights out front, AFTERBUZZ Studios.
Yes, that's it.
Dink.
But they're already out.
Okay, so what I want to talk about is basically, you know, we normally have our separate topics, and so what I want to talk about is how Kyle's death affects everybody, because that's pretty much what the show was all about. And I want to start with Jimmy, because that was the most dramatic of all the relationships with them. As usual, we'll talk about the songs a little bit later, but you know, the first thing we see is Jimmy on the couch. There's drug paraphernalia on the table, and he goes off to do something. He goes, you know, he goes on a little walkabout, and ends up at Karen's apartment and says, "I'm an ass," basically, right? And then, lo and behold, there's Derek. So it sort of crushes his intentions.
Well, and he must definitely still be on something, because he's crawling up to her window.
And he was
Doorbell
kind of
or
pale.
call her. I don't know.
He had
Well,
dark
that was-
circles
Is
in
that
his
asking
eye.
too much?
It kind of reminded me, though, of that time when he had to like sneak out. So maybe that's their little secret way of meeting each
Yeah,
other.
that's true. That's true. He's very familiar with the fire
The
escape and the window in her apartment.
Yeah.
That's the only way he knows how to get in and out. Maybe he doesn't know.
Maybe it
there's a
is.
door.
Maybe that's the only way he gets in. Yeah.
I have to
There's a
say,
door.
even though Jimmy was obviously on something in that scene, I was very touched by what to me felt like the sincerity of what he was telling
Yes.
Karen. So, you know, you've heard of liquid courage, right? With alcohol.
Right.
He's got his pill courage, I guess.
Right. Right.
I wrote down a line that he said that really got to me, and that's when I started getting that, you know, the tinglies in my tummy and the tears were starting to come. But he said, "What can I do to be the person that you saw in me? Because when you look at me like that, that's who I really am." And I
Yes.
just felt so much hope for him in that moment.
Yes.
Before Derek came.
Yeah.
And he had to run away.
But that's a really noble place for him to come from.
Right.
And it's a lot of time the motivator for most people, you know, when they're falling in love. I just want to be the person that you know, that you reflect of me. You know, I want to be the person that you see me
Yes.
as. It's, you know, that's a very noble hope, I would say.
You make me want to be a better man.
Right, exactly.
Jack Nicholson did that a few years ago.
Right. It's good though. It was good. So then a little bit later, Jimmy finally finds out that Kyle is dead. Right after he calls him a name.
Well, he says Kyle can go screw
Go
himself.
screw himself, exactly.
And he storms in there, and everybody's just standing there, and obviously he's in his own little world to also notice that everybody's standing there looking like they're all about to cry, or they just finished crying.
Right.
And he just grabs his stuff to get out and makes this big old speech. And they're just like, "You still haven't heard?" And he's like, "Heard what?"
Right. And so then he, you know, I thought it was interesting because Derek was saying, Derek and Karen were discussing that they need to tell him in the most sensitive way. And then, of course, the news doesn't get to Jimmy in that method. You know, I thought it was interesting that Derek was saying we need to be sensitive to him because he was ready to fire him last week.
Right.
Showed he had an emotional bone in his body. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like the Kyle's death, and maybe we're jumping ahead here, really affected Derek. And in that vulnerability, he was probably more sensitive to what Jimmy was feeling because he knows that Jimmy's the closest person to him, whether or not they were fighting.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's why he might have been a little bit more sensitive and trying to be delicate with delivering the news to Jimmy.
Well, and you also, even as much as he probably doesn't like Jimmy, he doesn't want him to go overdose and kill himself or do
Right,
something
obviously.
stupid.
Yeah.
So I think he sees that, and he probably, because we don't know if Jimmy's going to go back to the show or not, probably. But at this point, he's not hired back. So maybe he's thinking, well, Jimmy just lost the show, and now he lost his best friend, who's the one who got him on the straight
Right,
and narrow in the
right.
first place.
And he saw me with Karen this morning.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that could definitely, all of those things combined.
All
could,
his stuff
could
is gone.
easily put him over the edge. And yeah, nobody wants to be responsible for that.
Yeah, you may just want him to go away, but you don't want him to kill himself
Right.
or
Right.
hurt anybody else, because who knows?
Yeah, very
The loose
true.
cannon.
And then we see Jimmy at the wharf or whatever that is, the scenic overlook at the water, and Karen, you know, talks him down. First of all, I want to know, was he just sitting there reflecting, do you think, or was he thinking about
I think he was
jumping
thinking
in the
about
drink?
Jumping.
Yeah, you
Yeah. Yeah, the positioning, like, just he seemed to be leaning forward, not really just hanging out. And I guess Karen kind of explained that and saying, get down from there. She explained the part that we couldn't see, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely could see it going there. While I was watching that scene, I was so nervous because when she went over and I was like, oh my gosh, what if something crazy happens on accident here where, he kind of slips a little bit and they all fall down, and then that's how the season ends, or the series ends.
So guess what? We're ending it with this episode.
Everybody dies. Nobody survives.
Nobody dies.
Yeah.
Posthumous Tonys.
No, yeah, but whether or not he was going to do it, they definitely made me feel nervous enough that he might during that scene.
Yeah, I was too. Absolutely, I was. Okay, so, and then, Jimmy saying, part of the reason why he was there going through this reflection was that he was saying that Kyle's death was his fault. How do you guys feel about that?
I think Kyle shouldn't have been singing while he was crossing the street, I guess, for being technical, but too soon. But
maybe.
Yeah, if he wouldn't have been in that neighborhood dropping off his stuff if it wasn't for Jimmy.
Right.
So that's his thought process. If I hadn't done all those stupid things, Kyle would never have to go over there and would never have crossed the street.
Yep.
But you can't live like that.
That was interesting because, maybe that was his perspective. He said he was coming to see me. It was actually he was leaving his place.
Yeah.
He didn't know
I guess
the
he
story.
didn't know. Yeah.
And I just think that Jimmy has so much pent up, he has so much guilt for not being the best friend throughout this whole hit list process. Not respecting all the work they put into it by being irresponsible. And just from all that guilt, he just assigned this incident to another thing that he did wrong against Kyle. And that's why he thought it was his fault. Even though, really, it's out of his control that Kyle was there at that time when the car was, careening towards him.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
You could see definitely where Jimmy thought that was his fault. That's what people...
Yeah, exactly. That's
People
one of the
always
things
do.
that you have to do to kind of get through it. We didn't really talk about this at the top, but it was something that happened throughout the whole episode, was the flashbacks. I thought they were incredibly effective. A lot of times I think that device can be a bit of a cheat. But in this scenario, I thought it worked really, really well. And the only criticism I have, because of course I always have to have criticism, is that we learned so much about Jimmy in the episode where we're never going to see him again.
Oh, Kyle.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Kyle. Thank you. God.
I feel like I also do the Walking Dead podcast, and we always talk about that, the characters that you really start to like, and then they have an episode based on them. They kill them off, and it was kind of funny
Right.
that Smash did that too. I did agree because it was a character we liked,
Yes.
and I'm glad we did get to learn a little bit more about him, why everybody liked him so much. Because we all enjoyed him, but how they all had that connection and they fought for him. It was great to see that a little bit further, the behind the scenes stuff
Yes.
that you didn't focus on before.
Yes.
That was actually there.
I totally get what you're saying, Tamara, but I also thought on the other side that it was very effective in that it made it that much more powerful that we were never going to get to see more of
Right.
this young, amazing talent.
Yes. Yeah, it
who
makes
was
it more
just-
heartbreaking.
Yeah, like,
For sure.
man, we could have seen all this stuff happen for Kyle,
But
we didn't get to.
had we seen some of that in the first 3 or 4 episodes, we wouldn't have all been like gnashing our teeth through those episodes, how annoyed we were with because remember we talked about how surface all the characters seemed,
Right.
and how there was no depth and no realism to them. And it's the writing and it's the storytelling that's coming out in these later episodes that we have been craving this whole season. And so I do love the device, and I thought it was brilliantly used in this episode. I just wish we could have gotten some of this, good, juicy character stuff earlier on in the series, because then it wouldn't be, the sinking ship that everybody's calling it. But maybe it won't
Unless-
sink. Maybe it won't sink.
Unless they did it on purpose. They knew this was coming, and they knew it would have a bigger impact to
I wouldn't be surprised if they did it on purpose. I'm just saying that's a bad choice because they lost all their viewers in the first half of the season because the
people didn't feel connected.
Exactly.
So maybe it wasn't.
You know,
on
it's just
purpose.
like holding. Well, no, I'm just saying. Yeah, probably they were holding back all their their good stuff for late in the season. And yes, of course, you keep the best, most dramatic things for the end of the series. But I feel like they were just being too darn stingy in the beginning, and they needed to.
Right.
We talked again about how they'd bring up problems and solve them in the next 15 minutes, and it just excuse me, it just felt very unrealistic and silly. So that's all it is. I just basically what I'm saying is I loved this episode and I thought it was really great. I just wish we could have had more of these earlier on in the season.
Can I just say one thing
No.
about Kyle's death? That yes, his death is very moving and whatnot, but I honestly didn't really feel as much emotion as you girls have.
Oh, really?
Because we see he dies, yes, but we're still seeing him. We're seeing flashbacks of him, we're getting backstory, but it doesn't feel like he's truly gone. His presence is still there, so I didn't really get that connection that, oh, this character is gone, even though we're still seeing him.
I thought it hit me more at the end, especially when they dimmed the lights. That's when I started getting choked up because of that particular moment towards the end of it. The rest of it was interesting, but that moment I was sitting there, just how much it means to somebody who's in theater, and especially someone who aspires to be on Broadway, that they even did that. And they all came together to watch it, the entire Bombshell and Hit List, to watch the When Lights Go Out. I thought that, for me, made it feel more like a connection.
Well, where I really felt it is, yes, with everybody coming together, but just how each individual character was affected by the death, especially Jimmy and the cast of Hit List. It felt so, the emotion felt so real, so raw to me during the episode. So that, I guess that's where I was coming from with that emotion.
Yeah, and for me, that was partly writing, but I thought the performances were really good.
Yeah.
There was not, it wasn't melodrama. Not that they ever go that way really in the show, but I just thought the connection to how they were feeling and how it was portrayed was really well done.
Especially when Jimmy's singing and he starts to cry. I thought that was good too.
Yeah.
I started feeling it from the time from the moment we found out he had passed away from Tom, and I think it was also just because of the buildup of the momentum of the anticipation of the show and how excited he was and how invested in it he was, and then to just have that kind of shut off, it was kind of that was jarring to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end of the episode, we have Jimmy declaring that he doesn't drink anymore.
That was his wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. Do you guys?
I believe his intention is true, but it's always hard to kick an addiction like that or a habit like that. So I think he might try, but it's just going to depend on his willpower whether or not he can see it through.
Yeah. This is a pretty good motivator, though. Watching your best friend die, and we kind of saw in the coming ups carrying on his legacy.
Right.
Because Jimmy is the one to represent the vision that the both of them had.
Yeah.
And what it was at the end when Karen and Jimmy were talking, and she said, "So can we talk?" And he says, "I can't." And she said something else, and he goes, "I can't." I felt like what he was saying was. And this is just, I don't know where this came from. It just like, this is the feeling that I got was, I can't because I got to go to a meeting. That was sort of, because he was being a little bit evasive and not making it about the two of them, but there was something else he needed to do. And, he said something like, there's a lot going on, or there's a lot of stuff I've got to do.
He said, I just have a lot going on right now.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like he was almost ready to say, I got to go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting or whatever it is he would go to. And then declared I'm not drinking anymore. I went, oh, well, that may be why I got that feeling,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was also just he's laser focused now on how he can, perpetuate or, take over his legacy, Kyle's legacy.
Right.
And Karen has kind of become this whiny, well, not become, but to him, maybe like a whiny, needy something that he can't handle right now. You know?
I just thought it was more he needed to clean up before he could handle her. You know, if he wants to be the man that she, you know, saw in him, he's got to definitely work on himself first before adding in a third person.
There are things that he needs to do in order to become that guy. Yeah, I agree with that.
I was just gonna say, well, for me it was he needs to go through that mourning, the grieving process. He just can't focus on anything else now, developing a relationship, until he sort of heals himself in what he's going through with the loss of Kyle. So that's what I thought that was.
So then we have Julia and Tom and also Scott, and how that is affected. There was a little conversation, I think it was on Twitter, about why did Tom get the first phone call about Kyle's death. And, you know, I don't think it's anything we really need to spend a lot of time on, but it seemed to me like, because, so Tom called Kyle, and then very shortly after, the phone rang back.
That's what I was going to say.
And because Tom said, oh my gosh, that was quick, and then he went, oh my goodness. So I think it was just that. It was just the last number, and it seemed a little odd, yes, that Tom of all people would get the phone call, but, you know, convenient for the show, weird in real life. And
also slightly odd because you're assuming he's carrying his phone with him, or did he leave it at home? And that's what called? Because if he died in a car crash, or the car hit Kyle and he's carrying his phone, it's kind of amazing that his phone escaped unscathed.
Maybe he's got some crazy titanium phone cover.
It's the new iPhone 5.
Well, considering...
Or you would think that the phone would be like in a little plastic baggie and like evidence or whatever.
Yeah.
Considering last season they didn't have phones. They
really I remember that.
Excelled.
I remember that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They've excelled with their technology.
I think they heard what you said,
They
Kendra, all of
probably
last
did.
season, and they took that note and said, we gotta give these people
Probably
phones.
did.
Now there's lots of phones.
There are lots of phones.
Can we just jump back to Jimmy quickly?
Yeah.
I was just going to say he may be shunning Karen now because she kind of represents moving everything forward for Kyle and for Jimmy. And so maybe he's going to start blocking her out. If they hadn't done this play, he wouldn't have died, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh.
That might be.
Oh, that could be a possibility. I mean, except for that we've got the coming ups that we saw where Jimmy now wants a Tony for...
Well, but that's still doing it for him, for Kyle.
For Kyle. Yeah, I know.
Separate from,
Yeah.
the Karen thing.
Okay. All right, I'll follow that.
And back.
Okay, so Julia and Tom, she gets a notice from him that he's dissolving their partnership legally, and she takes that as a declaration of war. Scott thinks, you know, his whole situation is in jeopardy with the theater, and he says, I need this show, and look, just like 15 years ago, my fate is in your hands.
Yeah.
Julia goes in Tom's hands because she would give the show to him.
To Scott.
Yeah. If possible. That's what she said. Tom had his chance and he blew it, and she's moving on.
Right.
But Julia says, you know, I would never do that. I would never betray you again, and I would never let Tom do that to you either. Right. So it's clear she's trying to make up for years and years ago.
Well, and she's got a great opportunity here with, you know, doing a play. As we determined over the last couple of episodes, she has loved this process. She's, you know, clearly an established writer, but the opportunity to move out of musicals and into a straight play. She's got a theater ready to produce her first piece. It's a great opportunity for her as well. And the idea that she's going to sabotage it or I mean, of course she's gonna try and preserve the relationship with Scott, but she's also got a heavily vested interest in getting this thing going as well. And I don't see how Scott. I just think Scott feels vulnerable, and you know, our Twitter followers just tell us Scott's just playing Julia. Yes, we hear you. We hear you. We hear you.
Yeah, Scott made my blood boil this episode.
Yeah, do tell. Why?
He was just so shady, and then everything he did that had to do with the play, and no, we have to make it happen. We have to make it happen. And then going behind Julia's back and setting it all up.
That was the shady part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could tell before that, before it was known that he had done that something was not right.
Something was going
Yeah.
on. There was
Yeah.
something happening.
He has this shady
Right.
vibe. He's a good actor.
Right.
See,
Yeah,
I don't
Jesse L. Martin is
know
a good
that.
actor.
I don't know that I agree with our Twitter follower.
The
that,
reason why is
that-
who's who that is.
that
The reason
Scott is playing Julia, but I
Right.
think he's just very selfish, and he has high defenses about his show, and like getting it on Broadway.
Right.
But
So that takes precedence over everything else. But I
Right.
don't know that he's playing Julia.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree too.
But don't they mean he's playing her in terms of doing anything he can to run her over to get his due?
Sort of that, but also and that that his if he may be presenting himself to her in a way that is romantic, in a way that is friendly, in a way that
get
is
in.
whatever, but really what he's doing is
Yeah.
is
So
just
he is
trying to further
playing
his
her.
own career.
He's playing her.
By riding on her coattails.
Yeah, and taking advantage of the fact that she is in a deficit to him because she betrayed him all those years ago.
I still think he kind of likes her. I don't know, is that naive of me? But I think that's the bonus to the rest of it. I think he's definitely there for himself, as we saw.
Right?
I don't think all of that was just a game to get her on board. I think he actually does kind of like her.
Right.
But she
I
did screw
agree.
him over once, so he's gonna cover his butt. I mean, I think that's the huge lesson he learned, is he had to really bring back up his career, and he became very ruthless. And
You know what's interesting though is we haven't really seen the ruthlessness in him yet.
just in this episode,
Right, exactly. I mean,
that's what I mean. But that's what we discovered, is obviously he's gonna
I see.
do whatever he
Okay.
wants. And no, I don't think we saw it beforehand. I wasn't suspicious of him, and I still think there was something there, but I think he's way more selfish to do anything about it. So slight Derek quality.
It's
And
like
I love Derek.
It's like they swapped personalities or characters. Sorry.
right. Well, and that ruthlessness, a lot of people say, is a key to success, and they're both clearly successful people. The flashback scene with Julia and Kyle, I thought was really interesting. And that was a moment that really struck me, because she was talking about, they were talking about the dimming of the lights, which, we'll talk about more, but she says, or one of them says, she dies in the arms, they're talking about Amanda in Hit List, dying in the arms of the man who loved her as he sings the song that brought them together in the first place. And when that played, when that concept came out of one of their mouths, I went, "That's good." And and then Julia said pretty much the same.
Yeah.
That's some good drama. But I liked that, and I thought that was a really neat scene, in a moment that we got to share with them. I don't know. Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to say about that?
I like that he goes, and it was kind of everything that he said, of course, matched kind of his death, where he goes, she just
Yes.
can't die, it has to mean something.
Yes.
And she goes, we might just dim the lights for you yet on Broadway, just if he keeps up this momentum and everything. And even earlier we saw with the Jimmy flashback, Cal goes, so she has to Jimmy, so she has to die for you to learn something.
Right.
And all of this is for everybody to learn something, and it's funny that he's foreshadowing.
It's the
But
parallel
really-
of this episode.
Yes. Yes. Do you write in italics? I mean, you have literally like printing and cursive. It looks like you're writing in like regular script and italics. I'm like, oh
I
my
used
God.
to- I
can
used to write
barely
cursive
read my
a
notes.
lot.
They're a mess.
Middle school, it was cursive, everything, so half of my
But
notes
it's like
are in cursive.
it's like all of your quotes are written in cursive, and then your notes are written in other things, so you can delineate. It's like she's got italics on
She's got
there.
a method.
I was just writing this on
Raggedy.
I was watching in bed like Sunday
Whatever.
morning.
Try to read this.
Are you a Mac or a PC?
Oh, she's a Mac.
So then we have the conversation of Julia with Tom, where he actually clarifies to her, I thought we did dissolve the relation, or not the relationship, the partnership, and that actually this is better for you, because the faster we get it done, the faster you can extricate yourself. This is better for you. This is better for both of us. And Julia's big line to that was, "Oh."
Yeah.
That was good.
Which kind of cracked me up.
Yeah.
In a really sad way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it came out of left field for me, and obviously it came out of left field for Julia as well, because we're thinking that Tom is just trying to, maybe it's a revenge thing,
Right.
because she won't work with him anymore, and that she's gonna go work with Scott, the person that she decided is her new partner in his
Right.
mind.
Sorry.
But really, he's saying he's just doing what's best for the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I did question a little bit though if it just became that,
I did too.
like perhaps at first it was about revenge, and because this tragedy happened, it made him rethink things, and he realized, we should do this, but for a different reason. It's not going to be out of revenge anymore.
But the thing is that Tom has been consistently, every episode that we've seen, pretty much, been the one character that we can all agree on is a good guy, And he's never exhibited any, ruthless. What was the term they were calling? The meanest guy in the world or something like that. Except
Not
for
a monster.
Monster, that's it. Except for his little ego diversion that he went on with
the
suddenly
interview.
becoming, he was. Well, no, yeah, but when he was thinking, I'm going to be a big Broadway director, and that was the thing, the impetus for the entire relationship and partnership breaking up in the first place. He's pretty much been the consistent stand-up guy in the entire series. And so the idea that he comes from revenge and wants to hurt Julia and all that kind of stuff, I just sort of don't buy, except that we have these things that happen on this show, which has been our criticism for a long time, is that all of a sudden they do things that are out of character for their character sometimes,
Well,
which is when I throw the
episode.
implausible flag.
Last episode was definitely like that, because he was such a big baby that it
Yes.
was frustrating, because he's not usually like that, but
Right.
then you go, well, maybe people do crazy things when they're angry.
Yeah.
And
feeling
I thought,
desperate.
And I agree with Sarah. I actually thought he was still on that revenge, because it wasn't that much later. That much time had gone by, but suddenly somebody he started to like, who was kind of an innocent and everything, just in the grand scheme of entertainment and as a person, except for cheating on his boyfriend. But other than that,
Yes.
he had this naive quality that everybody seemed to like, and I thought the death was also the reason why he suddenly changed his mind. Like, well, I'm going to dissolve partnership, but here's a better reason for it.
See, I even thought the relationship between him and Kyle that was budding was so out of character too.
For Tom,
Yeah, for Tom to go from dating Sam
right?
to dating a teenager.
Right?
Like,
But
No.
well, he
Yeah,
jokes.
he's
She
not
jokes
dating a
about
teenager,
him.
but there's a big,
Yeah, she jokes
there's a big
about
age
it.
gap between them.
Right. That just seems so unlike him. So because all these things that were happening that were so, in my mind, unlike him, that's why I thought it would be revenge at first. I don't know. I don't know.
So we touched on it a little bit. Julia and Scott, her catching him in the lie about him telling people, Julia brought the cast together, we're gonna have a show tonight, and then she said, I know what you did, that's not okay. One of the discussions that I wanted to have that kind of hits against, or it comes up against that, was earlier on, and about halfway through the episode, they hadn't heard from Jimmy, and they're trying to decide, are they going to go on tonight? Because a few hours had passed since they all heard about Kyle dying. And Scott said, absolutely, we have a show tonight. That's how we honor Kyle's memory. And Derek said, absolutely not. I'm not turning this into a bloody requiem. What were your guys' thoughts about that? I want to know what you guys thought about whether or not to go on and have a show the night that the playwright died.
I didn't think they should have.
No?
Just out of respect. I mean, I know it would have been kind of a way to honor, but give it some time. It just happened that morning, right?
Uh-huh. Yes, it did happen just that
Yeah.
morning. Sarah?
Quite honestly, I thought the opposite. it would have been my natural instinct if that were me or a castmate to want to go on in honor of Kyle, like what Scott was saying, you know, not thinking about dollar signs in my head, but really to honor, you know, our fellow thespian
Right.
in the production.
Right.
The show must go on, and we want to show everybody what Kyle's dream and vision was all about. That's what I would have leaned towards.
Kristin?
I agree with Kendra. I think one day would have been good, and maybe go on the next night and kind of collect yourself. It did just happen. They're all really close to each other. So, you know, you don't want to go on stage and somebody starts crying and all that kind of stuff. It's very emotional, and although you want to show something for Kyle, you also, I think Derek was also thinking about the rest of the cast too. Besides just honoring Kyle's memory, you've got, how many people do I have? 30 people, 40 that all know Kyle really well.
Yeah.
And he's gone, and they're all backstage crying. The lead has drug issues. It's just smarter to take a day.
I will say that having said that, and we agree on that, the way that they did do it, I think, was respectful. Just kind of sitting there reading it. That had kind of it was like a memorial almost.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I know Jimmy came in and he wanted to perform the last number.
Right.
But if they were going to go on like half a day after it happened, I think that was the best way they could have done it.
Right. Marisa, did you have an opinion on that at all?
I think they should have had like at least one cold day. I think the thing that really got me was the fact that Scott was so abrupt about it. He was like, well, are we canceled or are we going to do the show? He did it, the manner in which he did it was kind of rude. It was kind of like upfront and rude, and he didn't really take in consideration like everyone's emotions right now. I think as professional performers, you have to take a day to just get over the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe to that point, what they should have done is, you know, sit everybody down and say, hey guys, you know, we know that everybody's hurting right now. We know what the situation is. What do you guys feel like is best to do in the situation? And maybe they could have talked about it as a cast.
Yeah.
Without Scott in the room.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest.
Well, yeah,
annoying
that's the
part.
thing. For me, I thought absolutely not. You do not open, you know, you go dark one night, just one night.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you have to take a week off. But the fact that it happened that day, and they're early in their run, and things are still a little shaky around there because they don't know who the actors are. I had this conversation with the person I was watching the show with. I said, no, absolutely not. And they were saying they had the opposite reaction, and you know, absolutely go on. And I said no, and I was really adamant about it. But the other thing about it, you know, part of the reason why they did do a show that night was because there was the phenomenon of people standing in line down the street. However, the phenomenon was artificial.
Right. It was because of Scott.
It was because of Scott.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, that just really taints whatever it is you do. To do the staged reading or the, you know, sort of bare, you know, skeleton set and all that kind of stuff was a good compromise. I still wouldn't have done it. I might have done that show one day later and then go back to business as usual. But I just, as Derek said, you know, the show must go on does not apply to this situation. I just don't think so. Callous, heartless bastards. Well, Scott, the callous, heartless bastard.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was pushing, like Marisa said, he was like pushing it like, so, okay, so, but are we going to put it on? Or how about now? Like, he didn't even let them, you know, kind of mourn.
Well, and it just shows Scott's insecurity. You know, what you think your audience is not going to be there 24 hours later, they already own tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a
Just to clarify, I definitely wouldn't have wanted it.
We don't
for
think
the
you're,
for
I'm
the
not calling
reasoning.
you a cold
No, I know.
bastard.
For the reasoning of
How dare you, Sarah?
for the reasoning of Scott, you know, wanting it, it's really to honor my friend Kyle.
And and I believe me, I do see that side of it. I just, you know, I just agreed with a lot of what you said, Kristin. I was, in fact, you said a lot of things I was going to say. Trying to go on that night, you know, it's just, I mean, I know they're actors, but for goodness sake, that's devastating to have something like that happen to you.
And as actors, you're pretty dramatic, and emotions get to you as well.
Right,
I mean, Hopefully you
exactly.
can act, but hopefully they're not also over emotional. I can say this because I act, so.
Yeah.
No,
Marissa?
but the thing is, there's a difference between the show must go on. If you're having technical difficulties, if a cast member broke their leg, you find a way to move on to that. But if there's a death, then that's a whole different story.
It's another level. It absolutely is. Before we go on to our next topic, we have not talked about iTunes and YouTube. So let's talk about iTunes. Somebody, go.
So you guys definitely should go on iTunes and rate and comment. We do read all of them and try to answer you guys' questions and stuff. Even Tamara right now has
I've got a
a
list in
whole
front of me.
list from YouTube, and we do check out to see what you guys think and get your opinions. So definitely, it means a lot to us, and I hope it means a lot to you to get in on our conversation. And we really appreciate that, and also YouTube as well. We do look at those.
Yeah, so rate and comment and tell a friend. Thank you very much for your downloads. We appreciate them. One of our fans is from Ireland who has been writing to us today, and I can't remember. I'm sorry. There's so much information that goes through this little tiny pea brain of mine that I have. I can't remember if it's a man or a woman. But anyway, our Irish fan is lovely and wonderful, and we appreciate the comments that they make. But a couple of things that I wanted to bring up was Star to be number one. Got it right that time. Said, I saw last night's Smash, and that just made me laugh because I just, we talked about that a little bit in the beginning. One of the things, I can't remember if she read my mind or if I said this out loud, but she says, did anybody else think Seasons of Love when Hitlitz took the bow? And I absolutely was thinking of that. And there was kind of an anthem-y moment in either last episode or the episode before. That I was just like, they pulled that song from Rent, and they pulled this song from this, and this song from that, and that was, that was the Seasons of Love moment.
That's so funny
in that
because when
episode.
I was watching the episode, when Jimmy goes to the window at the beginning, I was like, this is so Rent right now.
Yeah.
Will you light my candle, Karen?
Right. Exactly. Oh, I think it is actually Start to Be number one is our Irish fan. So thank you. Yes,
great.
I'm
Wow.
watching you, Smash, and you from Ireland. We are
Wow.
watching you back from the U.S.
That's great.
Okay, so let's talk about, there's a little bit more to talk about with Derek and Karen and Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I was really disappointed. Anybody else? Derek,
With Derek and Karen, I wrote all
2
caps,
bottles
I
of
wrote,
wine.
No. But then I wrote dream sequence, please. and then neither.
Of course.
But it kind of came true because it didn't.
Yeah,
they
'cause-
stopped themselves.
Yes.
Allegedly.
Sarah,
did you
I know
want them
you're
to stop
biting your tongue.
themselves?
I did.
You biting your
Oh,
tongue.
you wanted them to.
Yes.
Oh. No.
Sarah has something to say.
Sorry.
So last week, remember, I was in a mood and I had a diatribe. Sarah has something to say. Go, Sarah.
No, so I've always been a Derek and Ivy proponent, right?
Yes.
I've always wanted them to be together.
Yes.
That still stands. Okay, that still stands. But I have to admit, when they started hooking up, I was like,
When Derek and Ivy started hooking up?
when Derek
Derek
and
and Karen
Karen
did.
started hooking up at the beginning of this episode, the first second was like, no, and then they started getting really into it. I was like, oh.
And you were kind of turned on.
This is actually
Like I might be okay with
this is actually, I think, hot and good.
Oh, wow.
At least for this moment between the two of them.
She's on Team Karen all of a sudden.
And I
That's
could
what-
hear all of the team, they call them the cartwheels.
The cartwheels,
Team
yes.
cartwheels all over the world cheering.
Going, yeah! Awesome sex!
But I also was thinking, wow, things are going to get really complicated.
Yeah.
I had, you know what their problem was? They didn't stay on the slippery couch. They
No,
moved it to the
that's
couch.
right. We needed the slippery
That was
couch.
the issue.
Hashtag slippery couch. That's the magic of the relationship.
Yeah.
And also, how great was I was really PO. They didn't do anything just because I don't like Karen with Jimmy. I don't like anybody with Jimmy. But she goes, you don't have,
Right.
you don't have to. And Derek kept saying, "Are you sure?" That was really respectful. You know,
Yeah.
he was waiting for her to
once
say no.
from him.
Yeah.
Well, he was probably like, I can't believe this is happening. Are you sure? It wasn't like, are you sure I care? You know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right,
know
it was
they-
like, do you need to snap
Yeah,
out
I
of
know.
She didn't
'Cause I'm
have.
going
There were
in.
what was I counted 2 bottles of wine, 3 beers, and it was 5 a.m. So they're obviously slap happy and drunk. So he's probably like, "Are you sure?" And letting it happen. But I mean, even the fact that they didn't do anything and she said no later, and
Right.
he respected that.
Well,
know,
okay, but he tells Ivy later
That he did it.
talking about
But he
Ivy
said no.
Yes.
Yeah.
that he
That was
couldn't do
shady.
it because
That's a lie.
Well, but maybe both of them.
he
the
was in
same-
love with her or thinking about Ivy.
I don't think that's true.
They,
Well,
yeah.
and Karen was thinking about Jimmy.
And why is he saying, are you sure? She's the one who was seducing him, like at the bar. Yeah, more drinks. And then well, can't you walk me home? And
Probably
Yeah.
because
like
she's
it.
been
Yeah.
turning him down for a whole season and a
He
half.
just can't believe his great good fortune.
Yeah, but
And he's checking.
he's in love with Ivy. So he says.
Love.
I don't think he is. He's
No, but I mean, that's what he told Ivy.
he's in love with his plan B
Yeah.
when it suits him.
I still think he has deep feelings for Ivy
Derek does.
on a more real level than he has feelings for Karen. I think Karen for him is that forbidden fruit. You know, like she is attractive. No matter what, you're going to be attracted to her. You know, and a dog's going to be attracted to her. So I think there'll always be an attraction there.
Sorry.
But watch
I'm
out
sorry,
for those
guys.
dogs, Derek.
I know.
So I'm sorry.
You're going to get
No
comments.
matter what, you'll be
No.
attracted to Karen Cartwright. But I think that there's a more real connection, relationship connection between him and Ivy, and that's why I always like them together.
Well, is part of the reason just because they've known each other longer? Is that part of the reason why you think that that's there?
But also, they kind of go there. Like they're able to be honest with each other and talk about more things than the blocking of the show and let's get this on Broadway. I feel like they talk about more real life things too.
I think
think-
Derek, Darren,
Darren.
Karen and Derek do the same thing though too. They talk about personal life. I don't know.
And it's happier. I think
Yeah.
with Ivy, it's kind of like misery loves company. I get that vibe.
it's gotten better this
Guys,
season.
stop
I
it.
agree.
Stop it.
I'm going to have to move my chair in a second.
I know.
Sarah, you're overruled.
Sorry.
Where are all my
I see. what-
divey?
Divey.
Divey. That's a
Irish.
good
That's better than
one.
Ivik.
Yeah.
You're gonna go that way.
Right.
Well, and also I liked a little bit later when they were walking down the street and talking about how they stopped, which I was like, no, because that's when it was official that they stopped. But you could almost sense it when Derek walked in on Karen and Jimmy.
Right?
Of course, I was like, take that, Jimmy. And
Did
but
you
when
do
they
that?
were, yes, I did.
She did the
I did
gangster.
that.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Watch out.
Sorry. That was new.
I get really passionate.
She's creating new
This is a
New hashtag.
This is a punched. We're a punchy group tonight. I'm sorry. Did you?
Oh, I was
you
just gonna
finish
say
that
really
thought?
quickly when they were saying that they stopped and Derek goes, "He's no good for you." So he's still into Karen, even though she
That
turned him
doesn't
down. And he
mean
goes, "And are you?"
sorry. That
Go, Tom.
in my opinion, it doesn't mean that he's into her. It could mean he just cares about her well-being and who she ends up with. I say that kind of stuff to my brother all the time. She's no good for you.
She's no good for you. Hey, Sarah's brother.
And I'm obviously not in love with my brother. I just care.
Right, but you care about his
yeah,
well-being,
I
right?
care about who he ends up with.
So the end conversation between Ivy and Derek, where she says pretty much no, and no, because there's always going to be a Karen, right? That was
Yeah.
what she had said. Do you think that? Do you guys believe her? First of all, do you it's Sarah? Do you believe Ivy? Do you believe like she's out with Derek?
I think that it will take proving. It will take some effort on Derek's part for her to look at him
Reconsider?
to reconsider being more serious with him, because I think they'll always have that connection and always have that, a night here and there together where they can, do the slippery couch and then talk about and catch up with each other and what's happening in their lives. But for her to go one more step with him and make it a relationship, he's going to have to prove that he can put aside all the Karens, at least, on the personal level.
Yeah, I mean, he's an operator. So, there is a big consideration that any woman who's with him who wants to have an actual relationship would have to consider.
An operator? Sorry, I just thought a sex operator. What are you talking about?
Smooth
like
operator.
A guy who's like, working the system.
Okay. Hashtag Shabby.
Oh, that's what the song is. Okay. Why did I think sex operator? Oh my god.
That
Okay.
should be bleeped out. No, I'm kidding.
I know the song
I was
now.
like,
Okay.
what are you?
Smooth operator. That one.
Yeah.
In that key.
It's just a figure of speech.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go. Gotcha.
Why do I always say these things that just stymie you? You always look at me like, what the hell is she saying?
I need a Tamara dictionary.
I guess you do. We'll work on that. Okay, what have we not covered in relationships yet? Have we gotten everything there? Oh, let's talk the dim the lights moment at the end. So I actually have a little info about that. I looked up the origins of the dimming the lights ceremony. And, it's pretty straightforward. When somebody of note dies who's connected to Broadway, they dim the lights. It's for 1 minute. It's all the theaters on Broadway. It's at 8 o'clock. There's a little bit of, sometimes curtains at 7 on some shows, but generally speaking, it's at 8 o'clock. It is decided by a committee who remain pretty much secret. And part of the reason is that they don't want people lobbying for, hey, you got to dim the lights for so-and-so, kind of the way Julia was. But there is sort of a gentleman's agreement that, there are suggestions made to those people. And it almost always is within the first 24 hours after that person has died. And there's no big fanfare. There is a press release that's put out that indicates who it's being done for. And as I said, it's a 1 minute event. No one knows how the tradition got started, but the theater history book Showtime noted that the lights were dimmed for actor Alfred Lunt in 1977, and it was only the third time such a thing had happened. And it's happened lots of times since then. So it's just sort of a sweet, very honorable way to commemorate those people who've made this impact on Broadway. And I just thought it was, the conversation between Eileen and Julia was kind of weird for me, because I thought, wow, this is Kyle, and we love Kyle, and Kyle's wonderful and has done this amazing show, but I don't think his status warrants it, really, as much as we would love for it to be something that could warrant that kind of an event. It seemed kind of a little, wow, that's weird, I've never heard of him, a lot of people would say if the lights dimmed. And so I thought it was such a beautiful way to commemorate him in the end of the episode by dimming the lights on that one theater and all of them standing outside and watching it. And the oh, look, me on another diatribe. One of the things that struck me about this whole episode was the cinematography. I thought it was really beautiful. They had these great shots. When Jimmy was doing his singing scene in the beginning, they were shooting from down below and doing these kind of, dolly shots, and the shot from under the fire escape, and he was walking over. The looks on their faces in the theater at Hit List when they were doing this pared down version of the show, I thought was really touching. And then this scene at the end where they were standing there in front of the restaurant across the street from the theater, and you see the reflection in their faces. I just thought it was really beautifully shot, and I loved that scene. Did I just talk it all out, or does anybody have anything else?
I agree too, because going off the cinematography, you see during the flashbacks of Kyle, everything's nice and bright
Yes.
and warm colors.
It's got like
it's happy.
a Walden
Yeah.
in Instagram
And-
filter on it.
Yeah, and then all the present day when everyone's mourning, everyone's going through this emotional state, everything's blue, it's
Yes.
sad, it's cold.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I thought that was really effective and interesting. The wharf scene where we had Karen and Jimmy talking, and then later had the flashback of Jimmy and Kyle. So the Karen and Jimmy one happened at night, and the Jimmy and Kyle one happened during the day, the bright sunshine. So it was a really good contrast, and had a little bit of that haze to it. That is how we all hope that we are remembered when we're gone. I'd like to have a nice glowy haze about me. I'd like to have it when I'm alive.
I like to be
but-
in Walden.
yeah.
That memory with Kyle and Jimmy was nice too, because they were, they had kind of like belly laughter, and it
Yes.
was just nice to see them, because we didn't really see that in present day,
Yeah.
So
But also really beautiful the dimming of the lights scene that he and Julia had talked about it, and it was something that really touched. I keep saying Jimmy. Kyle and Julia talked about, and Kyle mentioned how he experienced it once and saw it, and it was very, I think the word he used was elegant, an elegant and beautiful gesture. So it was a really lovely way to come full circle with this particular episode. I like that a lot.
Agree.
Agree. Like. Let's talk songs. Okay, I have things to say. First one we had was Jimmy singing High and Dry. It's a Radiohead song. I thought it was a beautiful rendition.
Yeah. And I was saying it was a great depiction of how his emotions were at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that he looked at the photo booth picture that I noticed
Yes.
Kyle had put into the
Yes.
thing. Yeah. So that came full circle as well.
I felt like the interpretation of this was him in the leather jacket was him as a human, and him as in the flannel was kind of his conscience talking. I'm sure nobody here saw it because it only played in England. But there's a show I saw 6 or 7 years ago called Our House that played on London's West End, and it was a musical based on the music of Madness, which was a band in the 80s. And the idea for the show was there was one character, he hit a point in his life where he could go, choose one or the other path. And then from there, the rest of the show, you followed both paths of the same character, and in one he was wearing one costume and one he was wearing another, and it really kind of mirrored that for me. And I thought it was really interesting to kind of see the two sides of Jimmy and see them interact, and the earthly or the real or the conscious versus conscience, the conscience oh man,
Conscience.
not conscience,
Conscious.
thank you. Jimmy ended up singing the last line of the song.
Right.
And I just thought that was beautiful.
Don't leave me dry.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting because what we know of Jimmy until this point is he's always, sort of escaping from having to deal with his emotions and his current
Yes.
situation. He doesn't want to face it.
Yes.
And in this song where he is realizing it, I guess symbolically with him watching himself, it's him looking at himself and his situation, and he's symbolically facing it now.
Right.
Rather than, he might be high, but like they're not showing him just getting high and drunk. He's maybe high, but also thinking about
and
everything
trying to
that's
be a little
happened.
more objective about his own life and maybe make some
Yes.
choices.
Right.
Well, and that's often the reason for people to self-medicate and go into drugs and alcohols, because there is a pain that they don't want to face. They just want to numb it and keep it at bay. The last line of the song was, "The best thing that you ever had has gone away." And so he's just feeling, little does he know what's about to happen to him, his best friend being gone. I would buy that song. That was the other note I wrote. I just thought it was beautiful, and I would buy that song.
I liked the song. I couldn't decide whether I liked that he was singing to himself or not. I don't know if I was alone in that. Whenever that happens, it's always a little weird. It's like twinsies kind of talking to each other.
Right.
But, and I'm not sure what I thought. I liked the idea of it a lot, that it was him now, and he has to face himself and in song that way. I'm not sure if I liked seeing two of them talking together or not. I don't know, it could just
Two
be me.
Jimmys.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
Maybe I was just like
'Cause
double the
it's just
Jimmy.
too much for you.
Yeah, can't
Marissa?
handle it. Take him back.
I think to go off of that, when I was listening to the lyrics, at first I couldn't understand the voice of it, if he was blaming someone else about his problems,
Right.
and then when you see both himself
Versions of
and-
himself, yeah.
it was more of that self-realization that he's the problem, not everyone else, and then that kind of summed it up for me. I was like, oh, it's just about self-realization, and then immediately after that, he says that he was an ass. So
Right. So apparently it worked, him talking to himself.
yeah, I liked the lyrics and
Yeah.
how the voice and how it was all just self-realization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has a great voice.
Yeah.
He does.
I
Is he-
really enjoyed the song.
Did we say he's coming out with an album? Is he?
I don't know. I don't
I'll
think we
look
said
that
that.
up.
You'll find us out for next week.
Or they can tweet us.
The next
Or tweet him.
I will do that if you'll
Yes.
answer.
The next song we had was Vienna Waits for You, a Billy Joel song that Tom sang to Kyle. Very romantic.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think this was one of my favorites, if not the favorite of the episode. I just thought it was so sweetly sung. And Tom, we know he's a great singer, but I've
Yes.
never heard that tone in his voice
Yes.
before.
It didn't sound like him to me.
Yeah,
It definitely sounded different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Was that? I wonder if it was him.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
I'm sure it
they would,
sounded-
because he can sing, and I'm sure he wouldn't allow
It was-
someone to not.
Maybe they actually
Gorgeous.
had him singing at the piano instead of
in a
doing
studio.
it in a studio
Mm.
to make it more real. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
And I mean, we're used to, I think, hearing him with that Broadway
Right.
belty
Yes.
type of singing, and this was more
Maybe that's
I
his
guess
in love voice.
unplugged.
Unplugged.
Yes, that was his
Unplugged
in
in
love
love.
voice.
Voice.
Unplugged,
And that the lyrics of that Billy Joel song, I think it really did speak to how ambitious Kyle was at his young age, and how he just wanted to keep going, and he had such high dreams and high hopes for his life and for Jimmy.
Right, and again, that makes the reality of the situation very tragic.
Yes.
That he's not going to get to fulfill any of those ambitions. They call it a song, but it was really just a snippet of a song. The At Your Feet song with Bernadette Peters and company singing on stage.
They used her though for singing
Yeah,
in this
thankfully.
one.
Yeah, I mean, her
just
voice is so
briefly.
beautiful. I'll take any bit of it I can get. Cute, sweet. I don't think we're going to really need to say anything more about that
Can I
one, do
say
we?
a quick
No.
snippet about the Bernadette Peters?
She's saying no.
Oh no.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Of course you can.
I loved. She
I'm
wasn't in
joking.
here very much, but I loved her one line when they go over who's going to be best supporting as
yeah.
an actress, and Ivy's up for both lead and supporting
Yeah.
for liaisons. She goes, "It would be embarrassing to beat my own daughter." Just, it's no question that Ivy was that great. She's
Right.
like, "Oh,
No.
that's cute, honey."
Yeah.
I had a random thought when she was performing with the little girl. I thought of Annie, just
Yeah.
quickly. I was
Yes.
like,
Very much
"Oh,
so.
Memories.
Very much so. The Love I Meant to Say. That was Jimmy's song that he sang on stage. It was the song that they changed, that Kyle had Julia change within the show. Jimmy singing to Karen. I wrote this I said, it's so sad, it's so mournful and so regretful. And then a little bit later on my notes I wrote, so sad. I mean, just so sad. Beautifully done. And the last couple of lines I really loved. He says something like, the word I want to say to you is sorry. The word I want to tell you is sorry. And then the other one is stay. And it just, I mean, it hits on so many levels within the relationships for everybody, and it just made me really sad.
Yeah.
I loved it
The
though.
whole episode, I felt just this whole undertone of just sadness.
Yeah, except for Miss Heartless over here, but yeah.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
I
saying
thought
you
it was
were.
sad at the end.
No. I know. I'm just saying
Like
we
at
were
the
all
end.
like choked up and crying. We were poor sad sacks through the whole thing, and you were like, "Yeah, it was sad." Just teasing you.
She was like
It's okay.
laughing. Oh,
Don't worry.
I cried more because Darren.
Darren.
They're so close together in my notes.
Cartwheels.
Karen and Derek. didn't, you know.
Yeah, because they didn't. Any other thoughts on the love I meant to say?
Well, I mean, I liked that they were going to just kind of do it at the stools, but Jimmy wanted to do it full on.
Yes.
In honor of Kyle.
And the crew was on it.
And and if you're
Wheeled
going to do
everything
it, you might as well do it, right?
Yep.
Well, especially since Jimmy's the closest one to Kyle in that group, and if he's okay doing it, then they probably think, well, we could do it too.
Yeah, I just thought it was beautifully done and sad. We need to get a move on. We are so late. Do we have some news? Let's talk some news.
Yes. Well, this episode.
There it is.
The ratings increased following this episode,
yes.
May 4th. So it increased following the show. So I don't know if that means that everyone talked about it to their friends and then they watched it after that, or
Well, no, I think it just means that the ratings came out after the show aired.
I think it's TiVo too, maybe.
Yeah, it could absolutely be that. How much of an increase do we know? Or?
So it scored a 0.5 rating with viewers 18 to 49, up a tenth from last week's 0.4. The 2-hour season premiere on February 5th brought in a rating of 1.1. Does that make sense? That went down.
So there was 2.28 million viewers, and I think last week there was like 1.4 or something like that.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump.
So this week they brought in 2.28 million viewers during the 8 to 9 time slot, the highest amount of viewers since the April 2nd broadcast, which was 3.07. Besting the never mind. That's another show.
Yeah, so the show's getting better. It's garnering more fans. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm so conflicted about it, but it's good news for everybody that the ratings are going up. Megan Hilty is going to star in a staged reading of Cole Porter's Can in July. It's just a stage reading, so it's going to be July 15th through 17th. She will play a dance hall owner who attracts the attention of a conservative judge. Now, the other thing is that in January it was announced that a revival of this musical will arrive on Broadway in spring of next year. So the fact that she's doing a staged reading for it bodes well for her and badly for Smash if that's going to be her next job. She may be on Broadway and not on television.
Yeah, and oh gosh, all my notes are jumbled now. But Jack Davenport, he's going to be reunited on screen with Natasha Little in a new ITV medical drama called Breathless. So that may also not be a good sign,
When
right?
does that start?
Well, filming has already begun in London. It doesn't have a date yet for when that's going to premiere on.
But their seasons are incredibly short with their TV shows in England, so it may be that he can do both.
Maybe,
When it
hopefully.
comes back,
When
right?
it comes back.
Yes. Hashtag when it comes back.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's all our news and gossip, yes?
Yeah,
Okay,
man.
let's quick do predictions. My prediction is next week's going to be awesome as well. That's all I've got.
AfterBuzz TV.
I think there's going to be some more Shady Scotty. And then just I wonder if Kyle's gone from the show, or if they'll keep kind of
Doing flashbacks?
Yeah.
I don't think they will.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, because they've got a lot of ground to cover in the next few episodes to get to the Tonys for the finale. And I think this was a beautiful episode. I think it was really well done. And I think if they're going to continue with the flashbacks, it's going to sort of pull focus from what they're trying to accomplish on the show.
I also think that now with Jerry, we didn't really talk too much about this, but
no, we
with
didn't.
Jerry now involved in with a drink in his face from Welcome
yeah.
Back, Eileen. Now with Jerry involved in Hit List, because he's used to big Broadway musicals, I think we're going to see a clash. And I think that's another reason why we saw in the previews why Julia's going to step in for Kyle's sake and to kind of save the show, because Jerry's going to want to go in there and put his producer spin on it.
Right. Oy, oy, oy.
Yeah.
Sarah, any predictions?
Ivy will find out about Karen and Derek.
But nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing happened.
They did kiss.
Yeah.
They kind of made out.
That means something, yeah.
Marisa, predictions?
I'm gonna go with Kristin. I think Julia is gonna step in and have a bigger role on Hit List. Get her producing insight input to it.
And wait, I'm going to jump on that one, and I'm going to say she, in some way, she can't be directing it, but in some way, she and Tom are going to be rivals, like direct rivals for the two shows at the Tonys.
Oh, and I wanted to say with the Tonys too, since we learned that she's Best Supporting Ivy,
Yeah.
I think she might win that instead of lead.
Oh,
Because then that'll split the vote that way. And if they like Karen and Ivy at the same, well, Ivy's got another category.
There you go.
And she was great in that.
Yeah, but then what if Anna becomes the lead, then Karen's the supporting,
That
and then they
could-
are against each other?
That could be it. Or they're both leads in one show.
Yeah.
Can they do that? I don't know.
Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me, Kristin Carole 13 on Twitter.
Oh, at Kendra Kabasele.
You can find me at Sarah with an H Mendoza. Also, I just want to say, watch Tamara tomorrow on Home and Family.
Thank
and
you.
her
Yeah.
show was actually nominated for an
Emmy.
Emmy, everybody.
We
So
were nominated for
congratulations.
an Emmy last week. It's incredibly exciting. I mean, seriously, incredibly exciting. So yes, I'm on tomorrow. I'm also going to be on next Monday. As
Nice.
well. And you can find my website, tamaracentral.com. On Twitter, I am at Tamara Berg. Marisa, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Serafini TV.
All right, so we are going to see you next week. Thanks for hanging in with us. We went long tonight. We had a lot to talk about, but we will see you next week for Smash.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.